Kane.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Singleton.
Here.
And Parker is absent.
Open meeting compliance statement.
I, the undersigned clerk of the Board of Education of the Alva Independent School District, Number 1 of Woods County, Oklahoma, certify that prior to December 15th of the last calendar year, the date, time, and place of this regular meeting was filed in the office of the County Clerk of Woods County, Oklahoma. I also certify that at least 24 hours prior to this meeting, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, notice of the date, time, place, and agenda of this meeting was posted in prominent public view in the office of the superintendent.
Consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature, normally approved by one board vote, unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and approval of the following. 3.1, addition of items of new business to the agenda.
There are none.
3.2, minutes of the September 5th regular school board meeting. Approval of the finance report. Approval of the extra duty assignment schedule. Approval of the activity fund report. Approval of the activity fund fundraisers. Approval of the activity fund inter-account transfers. Approval of the child nutrition report. Declare the following items as surplus.
Okay, we'll go back up to agenda item 3.2, the minutes from the September 5th, 2023 meeting. I see any errors there. Agenda item 3.3, if you'll open your bottom attachment, the September investments, those are investments made by the Woods County Treasurer. Those are all current and up to date. If you'll open up the top attachment, you can see the monthly report for our chargeables. You can see that gross production is significantly down year to date this year. 271,000 less collected than we received last year. You can also see that we're down in our motor vehicle, county formula, and REA. If you look at the second page, you can see that information graphically, and then on the third and fourth pages, you will see revenue and expense. And then comparing that to FY23, our revenue has decreased $156,514.68, and our expenses have increased $453,191.20. Any questions regarding the finance report? Okay, agenda item 3.4, if you will open that attachment, you will see some highlighted names there. First, we have Alicia Boyette on that first page. Alicia will be the assistant middle school cheerleading coach. Thank you, Mrs. Martini, for taking care of that. And also we have assistant high school girls basketball, an additional assistant. And we have, if you go to the second page, second page, Kylie Franz will be the second assistant high school basketball girls coach. Agenda item 3.5. You have two attachments there. You have the top one, which is our year-to-date summary of activity accounts, and on the bottom, you have attachment. You have the month of September. You will see activity account 914. Remembering from last month has a significant increase in it, and that is from Blue and Gold sausage collections last month. Agenda item 3.6. Gold Rush has submitted a fundraiser request to be added. They would like to sell raffle tickets for chances to win prizes. This is a request that may replace another fundraiser, but they're not really sure. She's working with her booster club to work her way through that, but wanted to go ahead and turn this in to get approval so that they could continue to plan. Agenda item 3.7, there are no inter-account transfers. Agenda item 3.8, if you'll open that attachment, We have our lunches and breakfast year-to-date. You can also see that comparing those to the last 3 years, we are a little bit down in our lunches. We are a little up in breakfast for the month of September. But overall, we continue to see lots of students eating our school lunches and school breakfast. And agenda item 3.9, there are no items of surplus. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda? If there are none, I would recommend its approval.
Motion?
I make a motion to approve 3.1 and 3.9 as presented.
Second.
Pingleton,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Item number 4, vote to approve purchase order encumbrances for the following funds. 4.1 general fund as referenced, 4.2 building fund as referenced, 4.3 child nutrition fund as referenced.
Okay, if you'll look at agenda item 4.1 and open the top attachment. Some purchase orders of note there. Purchase order number 267, Play Versus Inc. is our esports registration for $3,000. Purchase order number 268, Share Medical Center. That is our contracted nursing services for $31,850. Purchase order number 272, Merrifield Office Supplies. Those are our banquet tables and chairs, $37,366.05. And want to thank Dr. Nicewanger. Our banquet, Distinguished Gold Bug Banquet, was excellent, and the tables and chairs were great. And so thank you for getting those ordered and making that banquet go off really well. Peak Environment, purchase order number 277. That was to replace bleacher boards at the football field. Purchase order number 287, K-20 Center, 2,700. That's leadership training that the administrative team will be attending together. Purchase order number 289, Houghton Mifflin Company for $81,974. That is the ICLE, International Leadership. Yeah. So they've been coming and working with our middle school teachers, and will now add our high school teachers to that professional development. It will be curriculum mapping. This $81,974 is going to be reimbursed. It is the last expenditure from our ESSER 3 money that was required to be earmarked for academics. Purchase order number 298, $4,000. That's block time that we purchased to help our IT department. And then purchase order number 301, $11,500. That is with R&T diesel repair. Those were some repairs this summer on inspections for our route buses. If you open the bottom attachment for the payroll for September, those are substitute pay, gate pay, and new employee pay. If you look at agenda item 4.2, our building fund, we have one item out of our building fund this month. It's for access elevator to repair lifts here at the high school. I believe that was the cafeteria lift, Dr. Nicewanger, I think. Okay. Agenda item 4.3, our child nutrition fund. We have one purchase order out of that fund. It is with Merrifield Office Supplies. This is $34,890, and this is for our chairs. This is our updated furniture for our high school cafeteria. Are there any questions on our general fund, building fund, or child nutrition fund?
Were those two different sets of furniture?
Correct. Yes. Last month we had the wrong. I had told Terry to put the banquet chairs, and I think we had that in child nutrition. And so we wanted to bring that back and make sure we clarified that not only for auditing purpose, but for you all also. So it is two separate orders for two separate areas.
To complete.
Correct. Yeah, because you can't use your child nutrition fund to purchase banquet chairs. So we wanted to make sure we separated that out.
Sure. And we saved money on putting graphics on the air vents, remember, thinking we'd have that much money left to do tables
Sure.
and chairs.
Sure.
I remember us thinking that, so we worked out
Yeah.
good in that.
I think we're going to receive about $60,000 in contingency funds back for both of those, or combined for both those projects. So a lot of money coming back after completion of it.
Okay, so any questions, any more questions? Motion to approve 4.1, 2, and 3.
Move to approve items 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Pingleton,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Superintendent's report.
Okay, we have two resignations that you will see in these attachments. The first resignation is from Dixie Meyer. Dixie is going to be retiring at the end of this school year. Really appreciate Ms. Meyer. Met with her a couple weeks ago, and she wanted the district to have time to find somebody to replace her. Very admirable, and really appreciate that unselfishness. And so we will miss Ms. Meyer, and we are already going to begin searching for that biology, chemistry teacher, and those are definitely hard to find. And so we really appreciate her thinking about the school district first. The second resignation we have is from Rochelle Wright. Rochelle moved away and took on another job outside of town, and so Rochelle did a good job for us, and as you can see in her letter, really helped assist the transition for our new para as they came on, so we really appreciate Rochelle also. Communication, this month, I just want to again thank Dr. Nicewander, Coach Foster, our student council members, Mrs. Ritchie, and the Goldbuck Foundation. We had a great banquet, we had a great homecoming week, and so I appreciate all the work that goes into making that happen. All of our class sponsors, band, everybody that puts in some extra time that week. So we had a really good week and a good homecoming. Agenda item 5.3, strategic plan. I will turn it over to Dr. Nicewander, and I'll run the computer and let her talk about the strategic plan. Personnel section. As you know, each administrator takes on a section of the strategic plan. And so Dr. Nicewander is the personnel, so she will provide a brief report on our personnel goal area.
All right, so our site plan and site level report, each principal met with teachers from their building, and we went through the process of looking at the scorecard, the strategic plan scorecard, what things we've already completed, but what action steps are still in process. And we, as a group, we wanted this to be, we didn't want it to be top down, that's never great. We want teachers to be a part of that and have a voice as to what action steps are important to them and what they would like us to focus on for the school year. So each principal met with about 6 teachers and went through that process, looked at our goals, what the district has indicated are still in process, and what we would like to choose 1 or 2 from each goal area to be our focus for the school year. So minimal goals were the same. You know, there were a few goals that we decided as a district, this is what we really need to focus on. But most everything else, they were very specific to that school building and to that site, so it's important to them. One of the goals that is a district-wide goal that deals with personnel is to send out a survey to each of the staff to get their input for professional development. And so that was sent out August 29th. that is a goal that Alva High School has, middle school, well, literally all of us. But that's the only goal that the high school chose as their personnel goal. There were other areas that they wanted to focus. So the middle school chose that goal as well. They had some others, but that was the goal that they focused on for this month. So Lincoln, they were implementing PLCs, professional learning communities, a time for teachers to get together to look at teaching strategies and data that support how the students are doing. They've implemented that time during the school day so that teachers can meet together and visit and look at that data. Implementation of Parent Square by the staff as a single communications method throughout the district, so that parents, it didn't matter what building your students went to, Parent Square was going to be your method of communication, and it has really been a huge help, I think. It's a very friendly, very easy to use app and program, and I think it's going to be a huge success for us. Lincoln also was blessed with the OETT grant, and so they will get to spend this year with individuals from the K-20 Center doing some professional development on technology and how to implement that into the classroom, how to increase student engagement and to increase instructional strategies within the personnel and teach the teachers basically how to use some of the technology that'll be innovative and enjoyable for students. And then of course the same survey that was sent out. Longfellow, pretty much the same thing as Lincoln in that they have implemented their PLCs in the school day so that teachers are able to meet for 55 minutes every Tuesday. One thing that Longfellow highlighted as their action step was able to be met with the early release day by looking at the TLE, at our evaluation rubric, so the teachers are able to understand more of what the rubric is asking for. It uses some kind of vague words at times within that rubric, and it can be up to interpretation. So this was a great time for Longfellow to get together and to be able to look at Indicator 10, which is teaching with a variety of methods, and Indicator 17, which is professional growth for teachers, and then of course the survey. Washington has a few action steps that they were able to address this month. PLC times being one of those, making sure that their teachers have some common time to get together and to visit. They are allowing teachers time to get their planning in process, and then they're going to start in with their guided questions and looking through at their reflective activities and going through that data. Staff developing performance improvement plans. So part of the TLE is also you have a professional learning focus. So each teacher chooses an area that's important to them for their growth. And to me, that's one of the best parts of the TLE is it's, you know, the old evaluation system was punitive, where this one really is all about growth, and it's teacher growth. What does a teacher want to work on? What's interesting to them? Where do they want to increase their knowledge? So I love that. They spent some time at Washington on the early release going through that. And then again, of course, the district survey. Action steps not met in goal area 3 and personnel. And this is kind of across the board. Different schools said different things, but a lot of times it had very similar language. So I just kind of lumped this all together. Define and determine norms and protocols for PLCs. So norms and protocols, how are we going to met? What's the expectation for our time here together? What do you want from me, and what do I want from you? So there's this good understanding before you ever come into that meeting, or that time together, what is going to be expected from you. So that's the norms and protocols. Develop one new college and career awareness. So that's a really great thing that a few of the schools had mentioned in their curriculum looking at college and career readiness. Attend a career fair, and that's something that we all will be doing here in the near future, is attending a career fair to be talking with future teachers and looking at opportunities to hire some of the best and brightest that are out there and have them come to Alva. And then, of course, provide professional development on common language. You know, we can all think the same thing but say it different ways, and so it's really good to have that common language and be able to speak to kids in a similar manner so there's no confusion there. And then utilizing response to intervention. That's a time where the lesson has been taught and maybe a student didn't quite understand it. So how are we going to respond? What kind of intervention are we going to provide to that student? Largest roadblock is always time, no matter what. Whether it's time within just the actual clock or all those duties that take away from the time. And it's not just administratively, it is so across the board. Teachers are spread so thin and trying to find enough time in their day to do everything that's needed. So that's a huge bit of it. What's next? To analyze that survey and see what kind of professional development our teachers are looking for, what they're interested in, and what will be beneficial to them. And then to put that plan in place. And then just to continue to support teachers with the TLE, the rubric, because it can be so vague, and we want to make sure that we have a fair evaluation process that is a growth model for everyone.
Very good. Any questions for Dr. Nystrom or any of the principals?
When you send out the survey in August, is there a deadline for when it's gonna come back, or is it,
I mean, there's not, but
Okay.
we sent
Well,
it
I just
out, we
wanted-
wanted to send it out kind of fresh after
Mhm.
professional development at the beginning of the year. And we've had a large number of the staff already.
and I guess that was my next question, how many have you received?
And want to say, I look at Ms. Webster. Ms. Webster does all our professional development.
Uh-huh,
By far the toughest, like, extra duty,
Sure.
or
Sure.
not really an extra duty, just fun assignments you get, does a fantastic job,
Okay.
because it's a lot. You
It
think
is.
about 173 people, getting a survey, and then making sure that fits the needs
Right, it's
for
applicable to
everyone. So
everybody.
she does a great job. Thank
I
you.
was just curious, I didn't know what the timeline was, or.
Yes.
Have we ever surveyed one before?
It's something we do annually.
I was gonna say, I think so.
And have you been pleased with what when you get it back, I mean, you think, well, that was really a good one, or,
It would be great to have more of our staff complete it, and the last time I checked, I think it was over 84 around it that had completed. And then I'll send it out, another reminder, hey, shoot this back out to, remind your staff to take this survey. But, we do get a lot of really good information from it, and I think that the way that we planned professional development for the beginning of the school year, we offered choices, so, and I think that I've heard a lot of good positive feedback from that as far as they had a choice to go to something that, pertained to them, and then we learned, okay, we need to even broaden that more because, we need something for our pairs that's going to be more applicable for them. So we've already got things in the works for that. So it is really good information, and we do really utilize it to better get our staff what they need.
We're able to meet, it's 55 minutes every Tuesday.
Yes.
That's been pretty consistent, and able to get those.
Yes.
Class.
Absolutely. Because that's at Longfellow, and Longfellow has been really successful at implementing that PLC time. It's not easy coming up with a schedule where you can have every teacher available for a block of time like that. Planning a schedule around common plan times is a challenge.
is the high school and the middle school having those?
The high school is not at this point. That's part of what the ICLE is, and that is International Center for Leadership Education. Thank you, Mrs. Martini, for looking that up. But that's part of that process. It goes through and it looks at what are our essential standards and helps to do some curriculum mapping, so that's kind of the forerunner. We have to know what we're teaching before we can get together to talk about how well it was learned. And so it's a work in progress. And again, we're going to talk about scheduling being a challenge to find that common plan time, even across just the three teachers within a content area. It becomes difficult so that you make sure that all of the students get what they need, all of the electives are offered at great times for our students to be able to have those opportunities, but also to have the teachers available.
Was that what the early release was put in for?
Yes, it was a time that, we, especially for the first one, what we did at the high school was we looked at standards. We had that time where our teachers got together and they were able to look at what does English 1 need to teach versus English 2, English 3, English 4, how is that progression? What are we teaching and how can we help each other to determine what the standards are that students need to master to be prepared for the next level?
Jane, that's a great question that you ask. So what every principal did, what was that, like a couple weeks before I sent out kind of a Google form about what are you doing on early release, and they did a fantastic job. I mean, it was really well thought out, talking about even how are you going to communicate with their staff, with your staff, where they go. And so the early release time, I think, was really productive for us. When you talk about PLCs, and that was in our strategic plan to do that during the school day, is so hard at the secondary level, because finding the common plan time requires hiring subs. And when you hire subs for a department, you're talking about 6 folks normally, roughly. And that doesn't include whatever subs the elementary is taking from that day. So I don't know how, and I'm sure there'll be some great ideas from ICLE on how to sustain PLCs at the secondary level at a school our size, because it's just really difficult.
Do we know if our peers are doing that? I mean, we know the middle schools in our region are.
You know, so we are having PLCs for our ELA reading and math. Although I'm going to tell you, they don't all happen during the school day. I have teachers that will stay late, you know, and plan a lot of the things outside of the school hours. Today we had our math teachers went to a training in Enid, and it was a half-a-day training. We went ahead and got subs for the full day, and they worked on some PL stuff when they got back. So, I mean, kind of trying to be strategic about those things as well.
And it becomes a challenge when we share teachers. You know, we have a number of teachers that leave the high school and go to the middle school, and then you have teachers who are also coaches. So then that takes, I don't want to say it takes time or cuts into their day, but it's part of, it's part of the process, part of that puzzle that's so hard to fit together.
Are they required to report like at 8 o'clock or 7:30?
Teachers report at 8.
At 8?
Yes,
School starts at 8:05.
that is correct.
Okay.
Or 8,
That's when the first bell
or
rings.
8:15,
Or,
if you're at the elementary.
well, I know
Okay.
they stagger, but at high school it's
At the-
8:05.
The first bell rings at 8:05, the tardy bell rings at 8:10, so that's when instruction begins, is at 8:10.
That's the same as the middle school. The middle school and the high
That
school are the
is the
same.
same time.
Yes.
I never could get them straight.
Because we share teachers.
I
So,
know.
And they've done a great job just within the last couple of years. We've really aligned the bell schedule.
No, I think it's,
So-
I mean, it's like Chick-fil-A, it's great. Your schedule, the way you move everybody around. Well, they always said if schools would run their pickup lines like Chick-fil-A, we'd have it down, but, I think we have it down just like Chick-fil-A.
Doing great.
Thank
But, thank you. All right. Sorry, but I mean, that is really.
No, that's true. I was
Think about how
I was
they
stealing
move
that
people
line.
through
I'm
there.
liking it. I'm stealing that line.
Item number 6, items of current business. 6.1, presentation of moisture inspection conducted by Alpine Review.
So at this time, I want to introduce Ken Corbin, Aaron Haney. They are our architects and have been really working with me hand in hand to get our insurance settlement completed, which has been a chore. And so as part of this whole process, we have brought in another company to inspect our roofs. And you can see I've got some extra here, those inspection booklets, and I know many of you drop by the office and pick those up. So I'm going to turn it over to Ken or Alpine, who wants to go here. Alpine Roofing, if you could just walk through kind of what was in those reports and what you were able to determine from your review.
I'll try to not bore you to death with thermography, but essentially we are an outside party that whether we find moisture or not doesn't matter. We just are here to look at what we see with the technology. So the thermography, how that works is we wait until the end of the day And it has to be the right conditions. Today's good conditions. The sun's been hitting the roofs all day. We came out here in the middle of summer. Sun been on the roofs all day. Once the sun falls off the roof, the materials in the roof begin to lower in temperature. They have a lower heat capacitance than possible moisture located inside the roofing structure itself. So thermography does not give you x-ray vision like a lot of people think. What it does is it simply gives you the ability to go, okay, well, I'm looking at a surface here with a thermal camera, and we flew drones to do this, by the way. And I'm looking for a temperature differential, is what I'm looking for. So the roof surface over here is showing me a temperature, regardless of what it is, doesn't even matter. I'm looking for a differential in that temperature. If there's moisture in a roof, then there's a good possibility I'm going to see a heat signature on the roofing structure itself. Now, this is qualitative testing. It's not quantified. It means that I'm bird dogging what I think is there. You know, Travis and his guys, the architect, they'll have to go in there and verify everything that I have shown in these reports. This is a qualitative test. However, the science works pretty good. All right. So the thermography section of this is how we started. We come back and we double down with what's called an impedance meter. An impedance meter simply measures resistance. All right. So we'll take a section of the roof and we will calibrate the meter to that. And this funny looking thing looks like a lawnmower, about this wide, about that long. And we then selected sections of the roof to back up the data we saw with thermography. All right. The way this device works is it'll look at impedance, it'll look at resistance of the roof and say, okay, we calibrate to that. And then as we go over anything that moisture-wise, that changes the reading. And you see that in the pictures that we provided in the reports. So we tried to give you guys really a pretty good data backed up. You know, we don't normally come back and back it up with moisture reports with a meter. But we felt like, you know what, let's go ahead and let's just do that. And we sent a guy up here for a weekend to get that done as well. So does any of that make sense at all, what I just said? Okay.
And so I guess maybe the question that we all have is what do the reports, I mean, as we look through these, it appears that there is moisture in our roofs. Is that?
At the time we did these, that is what the testing showed. So it's pretty typical for this stuff, for moisture to be trapped in roof for quite some time. It really doesn't have a way out. So for me to say it's there now or not, I obviously can't say that. But if at the time we did the reports, yeah, we had pretty good conclusive data showing that there was something there. We call them areas of concern because it's a place you're going to want to go look at. So the time we did it, there was a pretty substantial amount of stuff to take a look at. The way we see this too, if you look at, the coloring on some of these reports didn't come out so well. The majority of thermography you look at is they'll use a palette called Iron Bow. It's that purple to orange, red look you'll see. And that's the palette I used on these. I took all of the images that you're looking at there, and I gave you detailed images that are, so you can see each section, but then I also took those and I did I stitched them all together so that we could see the whole thing, to make it kind of simple to look at, to look, okay, well, here, and then you can go back and you can look at the detailed images. Yeah, there's pretty good data, and I've done 5 reports since. I don't remember what was what, but some of those roofs were pretty beat up.
And so what the step we're at now is we've requested, can't think of another evaluation from OSIG to determine complete replacement for our roofs. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. Is that correct? It's not the right terminology, I'm sure, but close.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
So this, this agenda item was just really to bring you all up to date. I know there's been some questions about where we're at with our roofing and what we're doing, and we're moving along. It's progressive, especially after this moisture inspection, I think is going to help us move forward with OC.
So we had them adjusted with OC, and they denied our request for,
Now, they,
they paid on them, but not, they didn't total them.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
and so, and we have replacement cost coverage on them? Okay. So they say they're not totaled. Did they send us a check, or did they
Yes.
pay out some money?
Yes, they did.
And then we thought that they're totaled in our mind, or, so we required, I'm trying to maybe update some of it, because I've kind of forgotten, so forgive me. So we have this inspection done to prove that our roofs are totaled, in a sense, or at least they're trapping moisture.
On my end, I wouldn't be trying to prove they're totaled or not, ma'am. I'm literally an impartial party to look at it and say, this is what the technology shows.
Okay, but the technology shows
Technology shows there's
that we
something
have
going
some
on
roof
there.
issues.
Yeah, I call them areas of concern because it's really difficult for me to say it is there. So when I look at, I bird dog it and say that is an area that should be looked at, and I see a lot of areas that should be looked at.
Okay.
That's correct, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, now we go back to OC. Did they ask us to do this? Or
No.
They did not.
No.
They don't provide any, engineering type
No.
work to come in the event that you, say that
No.
rebuke their claim?
No.
Okay,
But I've talked to Damon, which is our adjuster, and told him, emailed him with the report, and a letter from our architects that we would like to request that they come and inspect those again.
Have you heard anything back?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Is there a time frame? Have you heard from your, I guess, lawyer who was looking at your insurance? If they said there's a time frame where we have to get this done by,
There's
or
not.
if we need, there's not a time frame?
Our attorney has mentioned with, no, there's not.
Okay. Very
And
good.
he has visited with OSIG,
Okay.
and they're in agreement that whatever they need to do, or at least that's what they told our attorney they will do.
Okay.
For clarity, I'd like to ask a technical question. At what point, is there a certain percentage based on testing that a roof is considered saturated?
In general, what I look at, Ken, is all of these roofing materials have a certain amount of percentage of moisture. They just
Right.
do. So anything below 35%, I
Above
generally.
35%?
Yes, sir. So
It's
I'm,
considered saturated.
that's where we start looking at it. Below that, I don't pay a ton of attention to it.
The reason I raise this point is at some point, the building code kicks in, and it's illegal to replace a roof that is saturated. There's two levels of roof replacement, just a top scan or a total roof system, which includes the membrane, the insulation, and cover board if you have it. And so there's a significant difference in what is legal on a saturated roof and what the code requires and what you could just do minimally to stop more moisture from coming in. The saturation becomes, as far as the building code is concerned, a problem.
do you, estimate the depth of this saturation?
And what we do is the infrared can't tell you anything about the depth whatsoever. The moisture meter, that Travex moisture meter, we have 3 different settings we could put that on. I believe the majority of this was set on the minimal setting. You get on a tar and gravel roof, for example, sometimes you've got to crank it up, but I'd have to check with my tag, but I think he was pretty much set on the minimal.
Are these membrane roofs all the way
Yes,
around?
ma'am.
Are they leaking substantially?
Yes.
I would tell you they were kind of total saturated.
Well,
That's always the question I ask, when I get into this stuff.
Okay. Well, that was not meant to be a smart aleck question, but,
It's a legitimate question, ma'am. I ask every time I get into a job, is the roof leaking? That's a very legitimate question.
And when you said in residential market, we call that decking. You called it something else.
Well, there's a roof system generally. You have a steel, in most of these buildings that have a low slope roof, you'll have your metal roof deck or a concrete deck. And then this varies depending on which era the roof was applied. The insulation requirements have risen, as you know, through the years. But you'll have some form of insulation. Back in the good old days, it was a 3/4 inch Fesco board. And that's risen to 2.5 inches, 3 inches of polyurethane. But most of these roofs are probably older, but by system I mean anything above the deck. There's the insulation and your roof. And the membrane could technically not be leaking, but if you've taken moisture into the lower system and it can't get out, the code, that's the reason I asked the question, if it's over 35%, you cannot legally just cover that roof again without.
And you don't know that really till you stare into it, really, sometimes. Is that correct?
So you know, from the tests, they have percentages of moisture in their testing. Some places it's 50%, some places it's 75, some places it's 42.
Varies, I suppose the difference.
So my question was just to say, what does that mean?
Yeah.
At what point is it saturated?
Right, thank you. I just couldn't quite understand that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Would running dehumidifiers affect your tests?
I'm not a roofer, ma'am, but I'll let you go with that one. I'm not a roofer, so I don't
So
know.
dehumidifiers will affect anything below the steel decking of the building, nothing above it. And what is even more unique on your roofs here, they're Duralast roofs. My name's Travis, I'm a commercial roofer. They
Who
have
you with, Travis?
Tri-Band Roofing. We do a lot of maintenance on y'all's roofs. We have two-way air vents. There's two-way air vents that are built into these roofs, right? For every 1,000 square feet, there's a two-way air vent. But what that allows the roof to do is to breathe. If you didn't have a two-way air vent, then you would end up building up, due to temperature inversion, it would sweat underneath that membrane. Well, that also aids in drying these roofs out, but it will not dry out a moisture-laden roof. The biggest concern with moisture in the roof is, what is it doing to the deck? These are steel decks, and they're either Galvalume or they're just regular galvanized steel decks. And they don't hold up to water for a long time. They'll start rotting out. There's a lot of times in roofs like this, we'll go in and have to patch in the steel decking. And when that happens, if it's an insurance-related situation, when you get it tore into, well, we're obligated to fix it. So we send out supplements to the policy and get the insurance carrier to pay for that. But the longer you wait, the more damage is going to be done to the building. So it's not just replacing the membrane, like Ken said. It's not just replacing the ISO or the poly-ISO, the insulation. It's also getting down to the deck and making sure you have a secure deck to go back on top of.
Sir, when did we call in our claim? When did we start this claim? Just roughly. Was it after COVID?
I don't even know if I can roughly tell you without being wrong.
That's okay.
I don't want to be
I
wrong.
believe it was
I can't.
I can't remember.
April. I think it was April of 21,
It was after COVID.
I believe.
I remember.
I've been up here so many times, guys.
I can't remember. I'd have to go back.
That 5 or 6 inch rain we had.
Everything we gave was
Somewhere in that
COVID, don't we?
I know.
The thing to keep in mind too is, this is gonna go beyond OSIG's scope. They're gonna have to get their reinsurance involved. Whatever, I think it's McLaren's, if I'm not mistaken, but it may not be. But if it ever gets into a situation where you're gonna have to fight with it, you're gonna have to make sure they're included in your documents, because you'll cap out OSIG on any one of your buildings. Will cap them out.
That's why they have insurance.
That's right.
Is there a potential for mold in a roof that's holding moisture?
There's potential in mold under the roof where the water's leaking into the building. You know, on top of these tiles. These tiles are horrible for black mold. That's why, even though your roof is leaking, and I hear it all the time, and every walk of life, I get tired of replacing them things, it's just gonna leak again. Well, you gotta replace them or they're gonna mold, right? So, they're cheap. And then down in the walls as well.
Sure.
So, yeah, especially false walls. False walls are horrible. The brick walls, not so much, but the false walls or the non-structural walls, I call them false walls. They're really bad about it too.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
And,
It's a huge,
Thank you all.
it's a huge
Very
burden
much.
What's our
on
next
all
step,
of us.
Mr. Arden? What's our next step?
Continue to talk to Damon and OSIG about coming up and conducting another adjustment. Thank you all again for being here. You're welcome to stay if you'd like
Well,
to.
if you guys are done with me, I'm gonna drive
You don't have
back
to
to
stay.
Piedmont
I'm
America.
heading to Big Bubba South.
Well, I actually live in Lexington, but I'm just staying at Piedmont
Our
America.
meetings were really pretty fun, but.
I've been to a bunch of them.
This is my first one.
Thank you for again.
You bet.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Y'all have a great evening.
I'd like to stick around for the, there's some other questions.
Was there anything else, architect? No?
Anything you need for?
I think you guys are good.
Okay.
Thank
You
you
know
all.
where to find us.
Yeah, we're not
You
far
escort
away.
them out?
Yes.
That signal.
That's, turn that light on. I do need to visit with you.
Oh, I'm trying not to walk by there.
Let's move on. Discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the contract with Tyler Construction to serve as construction manager for Alva Public Schools capital improvement projects.
So I want to thank Mr. Hanson, Mr. Pingleton. We conducted interviews with multiple construction management companies and felt like Kyler Construction was the best company for our capital improvement projects. And so we've been very pleased with the cafeteria and the gymnasium, with the contingency amount of money that's been returned and with that working relationship. And so we want to continue that with Kyler Construction.
So we're good, huh? Okay. How many did you interview? 3?
They were all good, felt like.
They get all their paperwork straightened out, Mr. Argo, on all their, with the money, you know, they were having trouble with the money. I don't want to say this correctly, I'll ask you later. They were, when there's some additional pay in the bidding process or something, they were, with the ESSER money,
Davis Bacon.
yes.
Okay,
They
yeah.
all straightened
Yes,
out.
yeah, so Davis Bacon, that was did not originate through the architectural plans.
Okay.
And so Kyler worked diligently to go back, and I get monthly wage reports from where I did when we were having the construction. When any company that worked on site, I was sent a monthly wage report to ensure that they were paid at the federal wage from Kyler.
And the retro. Good.
Yep.
I knew that was a concern.
Yep.
All right, let's have a motion then.
So moved.
Second.
Pingleton,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
6.3, discussion of possible board action, vote to approve an offer of employment to applicant number 1, non-certified position for 2023-24 school year.
Okay, this offer of employment is for Tiffany Bagwell. Tiffany will be a paraprofessional and was interviewed by Mrs. Potter. And so I would recommend approval of Tiffany Bagwell for the 23-24 school year.
Motion?
Make a motion to approve 6.3, is Tiffany Bagwell's non-certified position.
Second.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Pingleton.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
6.4, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the Alva School District budget for fiscal year '24.
If you'll open the top attachment there, you will see these are the appropriations that we put in. And this is what you're approving, okay, are the appropriated monies for our building fund, general fund, child nutrition fund, and our gift fund. What you have as the second attachment, and I've also provided you a copy, is a budget book that helps explain kind of these appropriations and what those numbers mean, okay? So I'll give you kind of a rundown of what's in this book, and you can review it, and I can bring it back each week, and if you have questions during my communication, certainly ask those or call me. So page 3 through 5 is just general information regarding the district, as our board terms, and these will be down at central office if someone wants to pick up and read for fun. So you have our district terms and the size and scope and our personnel. When you get to page 4, these are some administrative projections that I just made. It's kind of a narrative about where we are at financially and projections that I see. If you look throughout this document, you're going to see numbers that are bold, and those are current figures. And then many times you'll see numbers that are in parentheses that are not bolded, and that's telling you what last year's numbers were, just to kind of give you an idea of what this looked like last year, okay? So you can see that we've had an increase of 1% in our valuation, which is good. Like to see it increase more, but it is good that it's going up. There's many districts across the state that are losing money in their valuation. So that's a real positive for Alva Public Schools. When you look down through there, if you look at the second paragraph on page 4, you can see that our general fund revenue is approximately $9,658,255.19. Anytime you look through this document, there are many times that I'm not going to include the carryover because that's not real revenue. We want to know really what we're bringing in, not what we saved. And so, although it's great that we have a $6 million carryover, that carryover can go very quickly when your gross production is down $257,000. You've had an increase in salaries, both support and teacher, and you have inflationary costs that are still hitting the district. So if you look at page 5, page 5 talks a little bit about each of our funds, gives a narrative about projections there. Anticipating a decrease in our carryover. If you look at it'll be the first paragraph where it says general fund. You can see the bolded number there, 4.1 million. It's a little bit more than that. It's what we anticipate that carryover to decrease to. So we're going to go from projecting to go from 6.2 to 4.1. Now, remember, my projections are always very, very conservative. I didn't project at the 90% level of revenue for all areas because I don't anticipate we're going to collect what our auditor thinks we will in gross production. So my estimate is going to be below our estimate of needs, and those are the numbers you'll see. Does that make sense? Child Nutrition Fund, anticipate still to have a carryover $132,000, which is a strong carryover there. And then the building fund, anticipate a carryover of $2.3 million. So still very strong in both of those. I give a narrative there about the gift fund and why there's been an increase in that, and that's through the Buckles Foundation gift for entrance improvement. On page 6, you have a history of our enrollment. On page 7, you have, again, that in graph form, and then also our membership summary. And so what membership, you see those raw ADM and weighted ADM, those are grade weights. You also see below that, you have category weights, and all those weights are used through a formula to help fund public schools. And so if you look at other weights there at the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that the economically disadvantaged weight has increased from 0.25 to 0.3. And you can see transportation has increased from 1.39 to 2. So those are very strong increases for those weights. When we send out notifications regarding free and reduced lunches, it's because we want to get as many students as we can qualified, because that weight has increased, and that's more funding, okay? If you look at the next two pages on page 8, again, showing you the same information just by graph, and then look on page 9. So page 9 is going to correspond with that first attachment. I've gone through each one of the function codes and explained what those function codes are and examples of what that money looks like in real today school life. So you can look through that. When you get to page 14, you have state and federal programs, which are all reimbursable programs. And then when you get to page 16, that is the same information that's found in that first attachment, and all of this information is in those previous pages to explain those functions. If you go to page 20, this is what I work on each month. This is our revenue comparisons. If you'll go down and look at the second page, which would be page 21 of that, you can see that last year in gross production we collected $1.5 million. Our estimate of needs this year is $1.3 million. So that's what our auditor predicts we are going to collect. You'll notice that I have a 0.50 there. I'm predicting a collection of only 50% of last year. Now that may be low, or I may need to adjust it further, but I don't believe at this rate, when you look at these first 3 months, we're going to collect 90%, okay? And so that's what I've gone down through for each one of those. If you look at page 24, you have the general fund, so each month expenditures, so each month we go through, or I go through and look at our expenditures and make a prediction on those, make a projection. Sometimes I have to adjust those projections, but it's always nice when we adjust them down. Page 28 is your building fund functions. And if you go to page 29, those are the approved functions. These are what the appropriations are to be approved by the board. Again, just like the general fund, I do the same thing with the building fund with our revenue and expenses each month. Child nutrition follows those on 32, 33, 34 is the appropriated amount. And then each month I do the revenue and expenditures for the child nutrition. On the last, or second to last page 38, this is new this year because we have more in this fund because of the Buckles donation and also the Alva State Day Fine Arts donations. Included with our shared trust scholarship, you can see the appropriated amount there of $314,942.77. Look at the last page on page 39, that's our total net assessed valuation. This is an important figure because this is what you're going to, gives you an idea of the health of your district. And you can see our evaluation, although it had dropped, it is nice to see it increase and continue to increase. Any questions about the appropriated money? Thank you, Ms. Owen, for your work on our appropriation. Any questions about the budget?
The headers on the top of these, like on 38, I think it's the same one it probably should be, so, and 29, as we go across those headers, is it the same as, here, appropriation encumbered paid, encumbered balance? Or that should be the same thing across here?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's the same as like the actual budget page.
thank you. Okay. So I was following. Back. Thank
What's
you.
that?
This is really helpful,
Yeah, right.
very much so. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for putting this together. This helps tremendously. I really appreciate it.
A motion to approve the budget.
I would make the motion that we approve the Alva High School District budget for FY '24.
Second.
Pingleton,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
6.5, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve a resolution for the Oklahoma State Department of Education of Alva School District intent to use hours rather than days for the 23-24 school year.
So if you open that attachment, this is a letter that we will send in for accreditation, or that we'll upload for accreditation. And this allows the district to use hours instead of days. In the case of inclement weather, we also used it during COVID. We've been a days to hour school for a really long time. And so this allows some leeway in the event that we need to cancel school.
Motion?
Move to approve item 6.5 as presented.
Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Pingleton,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
6.6, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the Alva School District's gifted educational plan for the 23-24 school year.
I want to thank Ms. Martini. This again is another one of those extra duties that's not an extra duty, and she does a really good job with it. There's some planning that's involved in contacting folks and revising a plan, and so I appreciate her work on it and taking the time, so I will turn it over to her. If you have any questions, you can direct those to Ms. Martini.
We did not make any changes to our plan. I updated it, I believe it was 2001. Every 5 years, it has to be updated, so we're good for right now.
To 2021.
Sorry, what did I say?
2001.
Yeah, sorry, 2021.
This is 2000.
That's about how fast life goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so it's exactly the same.
correct.
Thank you.
It's also available on the website.
And you have a parent committee that operates with you.
Yes, yes.
I appreciate your work on that. I know you've made lots of advancement in this area.
We just finished up some testing, and I'll be anxious to come back and give those results as soon as I let the parents know how that went as well.
That'd be a good idea. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. 6.6, is there a motion?
I'll make a
You
motion
get
to
your board
approve the Alva
members. You
School
have a
Board.
motion?
Yes, I will. To approve the district gifted educational plan for the 2023-24 school year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second.
Hanson,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Pingleton.
Yes.
6.7, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve an out-of-state travel request for the Alva High School baseball team to attend the Huntsville Festival in Huntsville, Arkansas, I about said Alabama, Huntsville, Arkansas, on March 1st to the 3rd on 24.
So this is another opportunity for our students to enhance their educational experience and athletic experience. And so I would recommend approval of this out-of-state travel request for our high school baseball team.
Are they playing there or going to watch something or?
Playing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Motion?
Make a motion we approve item 6.7 as presented.
Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Pingleton,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
6.8, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve an out-of-state travel request for the Alva High School Show Choir to attend the Winter Park Ski Music Festival in Winter Park, Colorado on April 3rd through the 7th, 2024.
No, Ms. Sutter is very excited about getting to renew this opportunity for our kids to go back to Winter Park. And so I know the students are excited also, so I would recommend that we approve this out-of-state travel request for Alva High School Show.
Move to approve item 6.8.
Second.
Kane,
Yeah.
McDermott,
Yes.
Pingleton,
Yes.
Hanson.
Okay, 6.9. With some hesitation, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the following board policies as referenced.
Okay, so I want to thank Mr. Hanson and Ms. Kane. We've met numerous times, and there's still policies that we are still reviewing. Lots of new policies that have come out legislatively and through accreditation over the past year. And so we are diligently working our way through those. The first you see there is death of a student or staff member. Felt like it was important that we have this policy in place to provide guidance, especially when discussion on a graduation ceremony occurs. If you look at the next policy, EHBDBA, this is an accreditation, I can't think of the word, but something you have to do. And
Requirement?
Requirement.
There you go.
There we go. I better write that down.
Yeah.
So this notification regards identity information and what is to be shared with parents. And so it is a standard. When you see at the bottom of those where it says legal reference, you'll see upon accreditation standard. What that means is our accreditation officer is going to come in, comes in about quarterly, and he's going to ask for policies or information that we may have, that he needs to show that we're following these standards, and this is one of those standards. Graduation requirements, EIED. EIED, the only thing that has changed in that policy, and it's going to be copied backwards in part of yours, but if you look here, it's underlined. There's been one change to state law with regard to graduation. Now, each year, you're going to see graduation requirements are always going to change and adjust. Our counselors do a great job because they've always got to be tracking those students as those requirements change. The biggest change that's happened is in regards to special education graduation. There is a separate diploma that a student that is on an IEP can earn and are unable to earn the regular diploma. And so additionally, as part of this policy, it also requires that each student in the high school complete FAFSA. Okay, and so I know that our counselors, Dr. Neiswanger, have been working on it. If you look at the next policy, EMC, this graduation policy, if you look down at number 4, this policy is a new one that we need to adopt. It has to do with tribal regalia that is worn at graduation ceremonies. And so it's been recommended that all school boards adopt that policy. Policy FFACA, if you'll go down to the second page, I've underlined there a change. We've been very fortunate to be able to work with Savannah Miller and Cher, our school nurse. One of the things that we are requested was to be able to add verbal in there. I'll give you an example. Our students, younger students, when they're going on recess, mosquitoes are terrible, which we're spraying, it's spray for. Yeah. They'll come in and they'll need to put something on them. Well, we have to have a written note that we can. So this will allow our nurse to call and get verbal requests instead of having a written note for everything. And then she documents that and keeps that file and keeps that all together. FNFR is the next policy, and so what has changed in this policy is pertains to what can be searched. And if you look at number 6, shoes, hand coverings, and head coverings that are not religious headwear can be searched. So in the past, if a principal suspected that a student might be vaping or have an illegal substance, they could not check the student's shoes or hat. Okay? Did not have to take off a hat or head covering or their shoes. Now that is legal for a principal to ask that student to take off your shoes and dump them out. Okay? So that's really what the major change is to that search policy. FNFE1, there's no change to this. We already have this policy on file, but felt like you needed to adopt it because the 1 has changed. And so got to make sure that all of the identification numbers for your policies are the same. You see in the top right, that 1's underlined. That's new. And then FNFE2, state law allows anyone to transport illegal substance or paraphernalia, but the superintendent has to provide who that will be. And so we've added site principals and school resource officers to be able to transport that. Thank you again, Ms. Kane and Mr. Hanson. It's a daunting task, and I appreciate your help and guidance through all that.
I really appreciate you guys doing it. So, let's have a motion to approve these policies.
Move to approve the policies in 6.9.
As referenced.
That's reference, there you go.
Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Pingleton,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Okay, any new business?
No, ma'am.
Okay, proposed executive session to conduct ongoing evaluation of superintendent per 25 Oklahoma State statutes, section 307B1. Vote to convene into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Pingleton,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.